Hebrews, Hebrews, Hebrews. This is Prophets of Awakening. This is our Shabbat class, the 13th of June, 2026. Okay. My main topic for the Sabbath class to be they lied about Ethiopia. Okay, we're gonna deal with that. We're gonna play the video and go into it because it's of the utmost importance. Okay. Go to our YouTube channel, the Prophets of Awakening. Check out our videos. We have over 1,000 or so videos that you can look at, examine, get the meat out, okay? These are videos that lead you to the truth of the Holy Scriptures. And if you like what you're hearing and receiving, I'm asking you to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. It would be greatly appreciated. And for those that want to support the channel, help it move along, we got our Cash App at the bottom of the screen. That too would be greatly appreciated. Okay. For those that don't know, this is a non-Messianic channel. We deal with the Tanakh and the Torah. Tanakh being the Old Testament, so-called Book of Remembrance. It's from Genesis to Malachi. Don't subscribe to the New Testament, to the apostles. Okay, none of that. JC, and the Torah is the first 5 books of the Old Testament that was given to Moses by our Savior and our Redeemer and our Deliverer, the Lord of Hosts. This channel was created to aid and assist all Hebrews who are waking up to their true identity and also understanding who their Savior and their Redeemer truly is, okay? Shalom and welcome to the channel and welcome to our Shabbat class, okay? We're going to do our normal, which is a moment of silence, Sabbath prayer, we have the Psalms, we have some current events, need to know information, and we open it up for some questions, comments, any dialogue, or any testimonies. And then we'll go to our topic for discussion, which is they're building a God, and the people are already worshiping it. We're gonna dive into that, and look at what that's all about, and then, like I said, my scripture reading will be I'll be dealing with they lied to us about Ethiopia. Ethiopia was never just a country, but in fact it was a race of people, all black people called Ethiopians, which are burnt face. So we're going to deal with that and how to rightly divide that when you come to dealing with the scriptures and the understanding of Ethiopia. Okay. Then we're going to pick a scripture like we normally do, and we'll close out. Okay. This moment of silence is for the Lord of hosts and all that he's doing to bring about our prophesied deliverance in these last days. Okay. Oh Lord, we come before thee at this time, bow down with great respect for our Redeemer. The Lord, you confess through the prophet Isaiah that you would return unto us and that you would pour out your spirit upon us. And this you have done in great spirits, O Lord, in great fashion. Because of this, O Lord, we have found you within the Holy Scriptures, great in counsel, mighty in works, for thine eyes are open upon all ways of men to give everyone according to his ways and according to the fruit of his doings. O Lord, behold, thou hast made the heavens and the earth by thy great power and stretched out arm. There is nothing too hard for thee. And us knowing this, all these things, O Lord, we eagerly await thy coming, the day in which thou wilt break the yoke of our oppressors. Peace be unto you. Okay, with that being said, we'll read the Psalms right quick. Okay, here we go. Okay, so I'll read Psalm 37. A true state of the wicked is a psalm of David. Fret not thyself because of evildoers, neither be thou envious against the workers of iniquity, for they shall soon be cut down like the grass and wither as a green herb. Trust in the Lord and do good, so shalt thou dwell in the land, and verily thou shalt be fed. Delight thyself also in the Lord, and he shall give thee the desires of thine heart. Commit thy way unto the Lord, trust also in him, and he shall bring it to pass. And he shall bring forth thy righteousness as the light, and thy judgment as the noonday. Rest in the Lord. Wait patiently for him. Fret not thyself because of him who prospereth in his way, because of the man who bringeth wicked devices to pass. Cease from anger, forsake wrath. Fret not thyself in any wise to do evil, for evildoers shall be cut off. But those that wait upon the Lord, they shall inherit the earth. For yet a little while, and the wicked shall not be. Yea, they shall diligently consider his place, and it shall not be. But the meek shall inherit the earth, and shall delight themselves in the abundance of peace. The wicked plotteth against the just, and gnasheth upon him with his teeth. The Lord shall laugh at him, for he seeth that his day is coming. The wicked have drawn out the sword, and have bent their bow to cast down the poor and needy, and to slay such as be of an upright conversation. Their sword shall enter into their own heart, and their bow shall be broken. The little that a righteous man have is better than the riches of many wicked. For the arms of the wicked shall be broken, but the Lord upholdeth the righteous. The Lord knoweth the days of the upright, for their inheritance shall be forever. They shall not be ashamed in the evil times, and in the days of famine they shall be satisfied. But the wicked shall perish, and the enemies of the Lord shall be as fat of the lambs. They shall consume, into smoke shall they consume away. The wicked borrow, payeth not again, but the righteous showeth mercy and giveth. For such as be blessed of him shall inherit the earth, and they that be cursed of him shall be cut off. The steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord, and he delighteth in his way. Though he fall, he shall not be utterly cast down, for the Lord upholdeth him with his hand. I have been young, now I am old, yet I have not seen the righteous forsaken, nor his seed begging bread. He is forever merciful and lendeth, and his seed is blessed. Depart from evil, do good, and dwell forevermore. For the Lord loveth judgment, and forsaketh not his saints. They are preserved forever, but the seed of the wicked shall be cut off. The righteous shall inherit the land, and dwell therein forever. The mouth of the righteous speaketh wisdom, and his tongue talketh of judgment. The law of his God is in his heart. None of his steps shall slide. The wicked watcheth the righteous, and seeketh to slay him. The Lord will not leave him in his hand, nor condemn him when he is judged. Wait on the Lord, and keep his way, and he shall exalt thee to inherit the land when the wicked are cut off. Thou shalt see it. I have seen the wicked in great power, and spreading himself like a green bay tree. Yet he passed away, and lo, he was not. And yea, I sought him, but he could not be found. Mark the perfect man, and behold the upright, for the end of that man is peace. But the transgressors shall be destroyed together. The end of the wicked shall be cut off. But the salvation of the righteous is of the Lord. He is their strength in a time of trouble. And the Lord shall help them to deliver them. He shall deliver them from the wicked and save them because they trust in him. So, like I said, I'm always reading this psalm, right? And the reason being is I'm thinking a lot of people don't see it the way that I see it. But when you understand who David is the Messiah. And everybody that's dealt with this book, whether just Tanakh or Tanakh and the New Testament, knows David's story. Okay, but I don't think they really know the in-depth story. But David is the Messiah. The Lord of hosts chose him. You got Samuel to go and anoint him. So when you read the song right here, David, he know the Lord. So he giving you some in-house instructions on how to deal with the Lord. He already know him. It's like a son and his father. Your daddy, you're a little boy. Daddy has already lived his life. And he loves you. And so he's telling you, he's giving you some in-house instructions on how to live your life. So when you look at it like that, you're actually getting a piece of David. You're talking, he's not here, but you can read this and get a piece of David. Now let me give you some examples. So it says, tell you in verse 9, evildoers shall be cut off, but those that wait upon the Lord, they shall inherit the earth. For yet a little while the wicked shall not be, yea, thou shalt diligently consider his place, and it shall not be. But the meek shall inherit the earth, and shall delight themselves in abundance of peace. So if you go back to David's story, he can tell you this, because he's already been through all this. And then we looking at the things we talked about, especially last night on the men's line, when we talked about these data centers and the people that created these data centers, right? So let me read something right quick. So these people that create these data centers and all this evilness that we see come that's upon the earth, it ain't just, it ain't just start. Let me read it right quick. This is one of the books they took away from us. The average Hebrew Israelite don't read it. But I'm gonna give you a golden nugget right here, right quick. I'm in First Maccabees, okay, and it tells us. Let me get it. It tells us right here. This is in Daniel, chapter 8. Daniel describes what's going to happen when the third beast comes. He gives a vision from the angel Gabriel on how the ram and the he-goat, the ram and the he-goat was going to encounter each other. When you understand who the ram and the he-goat is, it's the Medes and Persians, the second beast, and then the third beast is going to come and overtake the second beast. And so this ram is the Medes and Persians, like I said, and the he-goat is Greece. And the book of Daniel says, and Alexander the Great is the first king of the third beast. And then when you understand that, and you've been around a while, that's not in the Bible. They took it out. We get the vision, but it didn't come to pass because they don't want you to know that, because it's going to denigrate, take away from the lie they're trying to tell you in the New Testament. So anyway, we're going to read it right here in First Maccabees. This is when it came to pass. And the book tells you that. It says, it came to pass after Alexander of Macedon, son of Philip, who came from the land of Checham, had utterly defeated Darius, that's the second beast, last king of the second beast, the king of the Medes and Persians, that he reigned in his stead, and that he had reigned as he had before reigned over Greece. And he waged many wars. Check it out. Alexander, he waged many wars, captured fortresses, slaughtered the kings of the earth, and he made his way to the end of the earth, and he despoiled a multitude of nations. The whole earth was silent before him, and he became exalted, and his heart was lifted up. He mustered a very mighty army, ruled over lands and rulers of heathens, and they paid him tribute. Afterwards, he fell sick and knew that he was going to die. That's what David just told us. The wicked going to be cut off, right? And he called his distinguished servants who had been raised up with him and divided his kingdom among them while he was yet alive. Alexander had reigned 12 years when he died. So Gabriel told Daniel all this. He told him that the first king was going to get broken and four was going to come up after him. So these four that came up after him, after Alexander, was his kinsmen, four generals. They took over after him. So let's look at what it says. His servants succeeded him, each in his own dominion. These Greeks, after his death, they all put on crowns as did their sons after them. Read it again. After his death, they all put on crowns, as did their sons after them for many years. And they did much evil upon the earth. And they did much evil upon the earth. Now here you go. Here comes the Antichrist, the one that destroyed our temple. There spring from them a sinful shoot named Antiochus Epiphanes, the son of King Antiochus. He had been hostage in Rome, and he became king in the 137th year of the Greek kingdom. So my point is this. We see what's happening right now with the data centers. We see what's being set up. We see all the wickedness that's going on. Right? These are the people right here. They ain't went nowhere. Like I said, they didn't just come out of the blue in 2000 with the World Trade Center. They ain't just come out the blue. They've been here. Let me read it again. This is First Maccabees chapter 1, verse 8. Says, after his death, after Alexander's death, they all put on crowns, as did their sons after them, for many years, and they did much evil on the earth. That they ain't just this way back. They ain't just show up out of the blue. And then let's get one more verse. Then I'm gonna jump off of this. One more verse. This 2 Samuel. We're dealing with David. Like I said, the reason that I'm reading this read 37 so much, Psalm 37. So we in 2 Samuel right quick. Let me show you something. Same people I just showed you in First Maccabees. Here they go again. This time, this is Nathan talking to David. Okay, so I'm gonna start at verse 1. I'm 2 Samuel chapter 7, starting at verse 1. David, the one that wrote Psalm 37, wants to build a temple to the God of Israel, which is the Lord of hosts. It ain't JC. JC came from the Greeks, the people I just told you about. And it came to pass when the king sat in his house, David, and the Lord had given him rest round about from all his enemies, that the king said unto Nathan, the prophet, see now, I dwell in a house of cedar, but the ark of God dwelleth within curtains. And Nathan said to the king, go and do all that's in thine heart, for the Lord is with thee. And it came to pass, see that? It came to pass that night that the word of the Lord came unto Nathan, saying, go and tell my servant David, thus saith the Lord, shalt thou build me a house for me to dwell in, whereas I have not dwelled in any house since the time that I brought up the children of Israel out of Egypt, even unto this day. But I have walked in a tent and in a tabernacle, in all places wherein I have walked with all the children of Israel, spake I a word with any of the tribes of Israel, whom I commanded to feed my people Israel, saying, why build ye me a house of cedar? Now here we go. 8. Now therefore, so shalt thou say unto my servant David, right? This is the man that wrote Psalm 37. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, I took thee from a sheepcote, from following sheep, to be ruler over my people Israel. Here we go. 9. And I was with thee wheresoever thou wentest, and I have cut off all thy enemies out of thy sight, and I have made thee a great name, likened unto the name of the great men that are in the earth. Now here go the dagger. Moreover, it's the Lord of hosts, our Redeemer talking to David. Moreover, I will appoint a place for my people, Israel, and I will plant them, that they may dwell in the place of their own, and they shall move no more. Now here we go. Here go the dagger. Neither shall, this the Lord of hosts, neither shall the children of wickedness afflict them any more as before time. So who is these children of wickedness? The same ones I just read. Wait, I just read in First Maccabees. After Alexander died, kingdom was given to these 4 generals. They had sons. They sons and sons and sons brought wickedness over the whole earth. Okay? They ain't just pop up out the blue. And they just start, like I said, in 2000. Go all the way back here. Children of wickedness. And so it takes you back to Psalms 37 when David tells you, don't worry about them. Fret not, tarry. You're gonna do something with them. And we've seen over and over again how he done broke their arm and broke their power. And we witnessing it right now. He breaking the arm of the wicked. Like he said, I'm gonna take the bow out your right hand, take the spear out your left hand. It's all good. It ain't nothing to be get frustrated or confused about. They even came and attached themselves to our body, to the Tanakh, with the New Testament. That's how wicked these folks are. Okay. So, with that being said, any comments? Anybody got anything on that? Making sense?
Right. Shalom. Yes, sir. It made sense.
Okay. So, with that being said, we'll go ahead and go to our current events. I got a couple current events, and then I have some need to know information. We'll talk about it, play them and talk about them. Okay. Here we go.
Something changed overnight, and if you live in the United States, you need to hear this before the week goes any further. NOAA's Climate Prediction Center issued an official El Nino advisory just yesterday, June 11th, confirming what the models have been signaling for weeks. El Nino is no longer coming. It is here, and forecasters are not whispering about this one. They are using words like moderate to strong, accelerating, and in some scientific circles, the phrase super El Nino is already appearing in peer-reviewed discussion. The Nino 3.4 index has crossed into positive territory. The Walker circulation, the massive east to west atmospheric conveyor belt driven by temperature differences across the Pacific, has broken down. The equatorial Pacific is running anomalously warm, and it is going to keep warming through the fall and into winter. Here is what we are covering today. First, what this El Nino arrival means for your weather this weekend and into next week, including a severe weather setup you need to know about right now. Second, the full 7-day breakdown with specific dates, because the pattern is shifting faster than most people realize. Third, the long-range picture, and why the second half of this summer is going to feel dramatically different from the first. And finally, the most critical piece, the one that changes the entire forecast conversation. What happens when El Nino continues to strengthen toward potentially record levels, and what the historical record tells us that could mean for tens of millions of Americans across every region of this country. Stay with me all the way through. This one matters. I am Arthur, and this is Sky Space Lab, your source for serious data-driven weather science every single day. If this is your first time here, subscribe right now and turn on notifications. This channel gives you the kind of forecast depth and atmospheric context you're not going to find anywhere else. No panic, no manufactured drama. Just the data, analyzed with precision and delivered straight to you. Let us get into it. The timing of this El Nino declaration matters more than most casual weather coverage is acknowledging today. Here is exactly why. NOAA declared El Nino official on June 11th, 2026. That is yesterday. The Nino 3.4 monitoring region, that critical 5-degree band straddling the equator in the central and eastern Pacific between 120 and 170 degrees west longitude, has been running above threshold consistently enough to trigger the official advisory. The Climate Prediction Center alert system has moved to El Nino advisory status. That is not a watch. That is not a preliminary outlook. That is a declaration backed by atmospheric coupling between the ocean surface and the winds above it. Friday, June 12th, today. The immediate focus is on the northern plains and the upper Midwest. A mid-level trough is digging southward out of Canada, and as it interacts with a surge of moisture building northward from the south, the atmosphere is primed for thunderstorm development by mid to late afternoon. The primary risk window is from 2 p.m. to 9 p.m. local time across the Dakotas and into Minnesota. Systems diving steeply southward into the northern plains from the northwest, the flow reorganizes into a flatter, more elongated pattern across the central states. Westerlies strengthen across the southern tier. Moisture from the eastern Pacific and the tropical regions gets pulled more aggressively northward into the central and southern United States. The IRI/Columbia University ENSO forecast plume, updated through May 2026, shows El Niño probabilities at 98% for the May through July 2026 period, 97 to 98% through the forecast horizon, extending to early 2027. Those are not just high probabilities. Those are among the most confident ENSO forecasts the international modeling community has issued in a generation.
So this video is explaining that this El Nino is going to hit. Matter of fact, he says it's already here, but it's going to hit harder than what anybody even know. So that's the purpose of them for this forecast, is to warn everybody. So when you understand what he's talking about, it's the weather, severe weather. I mean, we already in tornado season. So he's saying tornado season is going to be unlike any other tornado season or hurricane season. And the weather around it going to be unlike any other time in our history, American history, U.S. history. Okay, so I just thought I'd play that. I'm trying to stay on abreast with that, you know. So with that being said, I'm going to play this. Last night I kind of went in on those, on the data centers and explaining what these data centers are. But my thing is,
we've got another.
And then we found out how they're going back, okay, how these people was buying up all these, especially Bill Gates and his cronies was buying up all the land around here, and we couldn't, nobody could, they was guesstimating on why was they doing that. But now we know, because it's out in the open. They was doing all that to build these data centers. And then now we bounced off of that, we found out that the data centers is a military application. They tied to the Pentagon, and now Congress, the White House, Trump, Project 2025, they're trying to combine the, well, they ain't trying to do it. They're combining Israeli military with the U.S. military. Like I said, this go all the way back to Malachi, when the Most High kicked them out in 70 AD. These same people I just told you about, that's wicked as hell. They was in the land of Israel at one time. They stole the land of Israel in 143 BC, and the Most High kicked them out in 70 AD. And they vowed that they would return. So they, by way of Spain and Portugal and the Nina Pinta of Santa Maria, they came to America and set up over in America. Then they went all the way around, came back, Second World War. They ended up acquiring the land again, and they came back, like they said in Malachi chapter 4, back to the land of Israel. And they sitting up in the land of Israel right now, the harlot. And like I just read, doing much evil. Nothing good about it. They're doing much evil. And so it brings us to, like I said, these data centers. And now the United States government is merging with these people. That was the plan all along. And so here goes another element of that. And so, like I said, you ain't gonna wake up tomorrow and they're gonna do something else. They got a plan.
Banger from wonderful journalist and friend of the show, Ken Klippenstein. It's titled Exclusive, U.S. Secretly Deployed Paratroopers to Israel. Quick reaction for
82nd Airborne. If you know anything about the military, then got deployed to Israel.
Specializes in forced entry. In it, Ken writes that when the Pentagon announced that the 82nd Airborne was deploying to the Middle East in March, it concealed a key detail. Some of the paratroopers were headed to Israel. Ken's reporting is based on an Army deployment order that was actually leaked to him, much to the chagrin of that Will Chamberlain guy, whoever he is and wherever he came from. And the 82nd Airborne, for those who are unfamiliar with it, is trained specifically to parachute into hostile territory. So does that mean the Trump administration and the Pentagon have been preparing for troops on the ground in Iran? Further, Klippenstein writes that a military source involved in war planning tells me the deployment is tied to a new U.S.-Israeli joint contingency plan completed since February for seizing Karg Island and carving out coastal territory inside Iran. The Pentagon has never acknowledged it. In public, it has said only that the 82nd was bound for CENTCOM, the military's term for U.S. Central Command, the combatant command responsible for the entire Middle East. The press echoed the vague terminology, suggesting the unit was headed to existing U.S. bases in Kuwait or Qatar. So what's really going on here? What do we make of this story? Luckily, we have Ken Klippenstein joining us right now to answer some questions. Ken, welcome to the show. Ken, welcome to the show.
Hey guys, great to be back.
So I have so many questions about this, Ken, and we will get to Will Chamberlain in just a second because he's like threatening you over this report. But first, let's get to the actual substance. So why is this joint mission with Israel shrouded in secrecy?
Because of what it's part of, which is what that war planner, who I quote in the story you just mentioned, told me, which is a contingency plan for going into Iran, like within their territory, seizing nuclear material and also seizing Karg Island, which controls a large portion of Iran's oil infrastructure. And so the question is, as you know, people asked in response to the story, okay, well, why would they put them in Israel? It's so far away. Why not put it somewhere closer? Because Israel is the only country that the U.S. can assume will be okay with launching an attack from. If they did it from Qatar, if they did it from, the UAE, if they did it from virtually any other country in the region, they wouldn't tolerate it because Iran would respond, and they would respond with a lot of force. So Israel's the only country that they could launch the planes from, where they would carry out, a raid-style targeted operation of that sort. And like I said, there's been no debate about this because the Pentagon has just said, "Oh, we're sending them to the Middle East," like broadly, no specifics. I know that there are major outlets that know that there are people going to Israel. They know where they're going, but they play along with the Pentagon's game of not being specific. They would probably say for operational security, but I think so that they stay in the good graces of the Pentagon, and that was really my motive for writing the story.
Well, yes, I agree with you on why legacy media operates the way they operate. It's also increasingly bought up and controlled by, pro-Zionist, pro-Israel interests. I mean, just today, the California Post published an article about how Barry Weiss is poised to oversee CNN editorial operations. So I don't have much faith that the editorial leadership of Barry Weiss is conducive to accurate reporting about what our troops are doing on the ground in Israel. But, what I also find kind of interesting is this reporting reminds me of what happened with our soldiers in Iran not too long ago, where we lost a ton of military aircraft. Our troops had to be saved from within Iran. There's still no clarity about, first of all, who those troops were who were saved, no clarity about why they were in Iranian territory to begin with. What were they doing? And, Iran has put out some, not Iran, but, the Lego cartoons that come out. One of them specifically noted that operation was about retrieving Iran's enriched uranium, which really makes me wonder, Ken, what your thoughts are about retrieving enriched uranium, because that's always been a cover story to justify war against Iran. I don't think Israel has ever been genuinely concerned about Iran building nuclear weapons. And so when you see our troops risking their lives to potentially retrieve enriched uranium that the Israelis aren't even really concerned about, it makes me wonder if the Trump administration has been duped into thinking this is a serious issue and they must retrieve the enriched uranium. What's your read on that?
Well, it's a complicated situation because the U.S. and Israel's interests diverge in key ways. Israel has regional interests, questions of, influence that they want to exercise over the region. The U.S. has much narrower ones. If you're looking at non-proliferation, that's a much narrower thing. I think a lot of the coverage on this has been kind of misleading because the U.S. can't do a large-scale war, at least not in the near term, because that would just be such a massive undertaking. I mean, Iran is a huge country that is nothing like some of the other countries in the region in which we've intervened. And so what that means is that they would have to do it more like the bin Laden raid in Pakistan, a more targeted operation, which carries all sorts of risks with it, but it just looks different than the traditional massive ground invasion that you saw, for instance, in neighboring Iraq. And so a lot of the arguments that people make for why this can't escalate because the U.S. simply can't absorb the political cost that you saw politicians have to deal with in Iraq. It's a completely different situation in Iran. It would be something in the order of probably hundreds of troops, these two different locations. From Trump's point of view, not being to take over the entirety of the Iranian state, but to secure some kind of a win so that in the negotiations would seem to not be going great when those negotiations ultimately either collapse or the U.S. has to offer some concessions that it doesn't want to. He can say, oh, look, well, we got the nuclear fissile material and we took over the oil infrastructure, so I have a win. And so I think at least in the near term, that's what we're looking at.
Mm-hmm. Chamberlain, who I'd never heard of once in my life until like a week ago, and now he's all over the place. It's like they roll like new figures out to be like attack dogs, and they fail every single time. But let me give you this exchange. So Ken Klippenstein decides he's going to promote his work, so he posts about his piece over on X, and Will Chamberlain responds with, "Tickled to hear you say that. Hope you're ready to give up your source or be jailed for contempt." Wow, sounds like someone who really believes in Western values and freedom of expression and freedom of press. Ken responds in the way that you should expect Ken to respond. He calls him Will Chambermaid. And Chamberlain responds with, "You'll have plenty of spare time to brainstorm better epithets soon enough." Basically, making reference to you being, I guess, imprisoned for doing journalism, the terrible, violation of actual journalism. So are you worried at all about these threats, Ken?
No, I don't worry about this stuff at all. If I worry about anyone, I worry about sources, because they can be, messed with internal investigations and things like that.
Okay, so what you think? We got this 82nd Airborne in Israel.
Is Shalom, Brother Leonard, that's a branch from the Army?
Paratroopers go all the way back to World War I and II. That's an elite group of paratroopers.
Okay. Well, that makes sense too with them saying the military is combining. So
exactly. So like my reason for playing this is that it already happened.
Right.
we already dealing with Pac Judaica. Okay.
Right. Sure. Temple just not up.
Right. This is the beginning stages of it. It's crazy. So anyway, I got some need to know information. Let me play that. Let me see. I thought this was pretty interesting too because he's tied to Egypt. Let's check it out.
In the basement storage of the Cairo Museum, beneath the public galleries, the guided tours, and the glass cases holding the celebrated artifacts of dynastic Egypt, there is a limestone block that has not been on public display since 1973.
So up until now, all this stuff been hidden. They know about it, but it's been hidden. But if you know, I was trying to keep everybody informed on it. But it's that right now we're under a so-called alien UFO disclosure. So the Americans or the powers that be, especially America and these Edomites, are supposed to be coming clean with the history of this earth and their connection to extraterrestrial beings or whatever. So check it out.
It is cataloged as JE89289. It measures approximately 1.2 meters across carved on one face with a hieroglyphic register that does not match any known scene from the standard Egyptian religious canon. It was removed from public access the same year a visiting epigrapher from the University of Chicago photographed a section of its carved surface and noted in writing that the beings depicted in that register had no equivalence in any dynastic text she had encountered in 20 years of fieldwork. That note exists. The photograph exists. The block exists. What does not exist is a single peer-reviewed paper dedicated to what is carved on it. The block was excavated in 1971 from a sealed subsidiary chamber beneath the Saqqara necropolis, the ancient burial complex south of Cairo that contains some of the oldest monumental stone architecture on Earth. The excavation was led by Dr. Jean-Philippe Lauer, a French Egyptologist who spent...
All of a sudden now, it's some beings that was in Egypt that is not part of the history, that they ain't, it's nowhere in the history books that all of a sudden these beings, now they got evidence showing these beings that was in Egypt, which we already know, okay?
Spent more than 7 decades working at Saqqara, and who is considered one of the foremost authorities on the site's architecture. His field notes, held in the archive of the French National Center for Scientific Research in Paris, describe the chamber as predating the surrounding step pyramid complex, not by years, but by centuries. The stratigraphic analysis placed its construction before the accepted beginning of dynastic Egypt. Lauer documented this. The Cairo Museum cataloged the block in 1974 under a single classification: pre-dynastic, ceremonial relief, provenance, uncertain. No dedicated iconographic study has been published since. The beings depicted on JE 89289 are labeled in the carved register with a compound hieroglyphic glyph that Egyptologists have translated provisionally as those who came before the counting of years. In hieroglyphic convention, compound glyphs of that
All of a sudden, they discovered this.
grammatical construction are not poetic flourishes. They are precise categorical designations. The Egyptians used them to name specific classes of beings, specific offices, specific cosmic roles. This glyph does not appear anywhere in the formal dynastic canon, but the physical description of the beings it labels does appear elsewhere, in 3 separate locations, across 2 continents, recorded by civilizations that had no known contact with one another. That convergence is where this investigation begins. The carved register on JE 8892-89 depicts a construction sequence, not a religious offering scene, not a funerary procession, not a coronation, a construction sequence, showing figures directing the placement of large rectangular stone forms, using instruments that do not correspond to any tool in the documented Egyptian archaeological record. One instrument appears repeatedly throughout the register. It is a rod with a forked terminus, held at a precise downward angle by each figure shown using it. For decades, researchers who encountered this image in Lauer's documentation assumed it was a ritual object, a ceremonial implement with symbolic rather than practical significance. That interpretation required no further investigation. The object was classified as unknown, the image was filed, and the inquiry stopped. But that assumption rested on a comparison set that was missing a critical data point. In the year 2000, German archaeologist Dr. Klaus Schmidt published a field report in the academic journal Neolithics, documenting his ongoing excavations at Göbekli Tepe, a site in southeastern Turkey that at the time of its discovery was already recognized as the oldest known ritual complex on Earth. predating the Egyptian pyramid complex by at least 7,000 years. Among the carved limestone pillars of the site, Schmidt documented Pillar 43, now referred to in the academic literature as the vulture stone, for its prominent depiction of birds and other animals. In his field notes, Schmidt logged one recurring abstract element among the animal carvings, a forked rod held at a downward angle by a figure rendered without a head. He classified it as an unidentified cultic implement and moved on. There is no evidence in any published record that Schmidt was ever aware of JE 89,289 in the Cairo Museum basement. He was not looking for a parallel. He found one anyway. Here is where it gets specific. In 2017, geologist and researcher Dr. Robert Schoch, who holds a doctorate from Yale University, and whose peer-reviewed work on the geological age of the Sphinx enclosure has been a subject of serious academic debate for 3 decades, presented an analysis at the annual meeting of the Geological Society of America. Among his findings was a geometric observation about the carved implements on Pillar 43 at Göbekli Tepe. The forked rod appears multiple times across the pillar's carved surface, and in every instance, it is rendered at a consistent downward angle of 33 degrees from horizontal. Schoch noted the consistency as architecturally significant. What his presentation did not include, because the comparison had not yet been made in any published forum, was the fact that the forked implement carved on JE 89289 in Cairo appears at the same angle. 33 degrees, 2 sites, a separation of 7,000 years and 2,000 kilometers. The same instrument, the same angle, with no known cultural transmission pathway connecting them. If you follow this channel, you already know that the most important evidence in ancient history tends to live in supplementary data tables and field notes, rather than in documentary headlines. Subscribe now, because every week, same physical location, the same stratigraphic layer at the same site. Coincidental parallel development does not produce a specific geometric angle reproduced identically across 7,000 years and 2,000 kilometers with no intermediate examples in the archaeological record. Sequencing noise does not produce a coherent, internally consistent haplogroup variant with organized base pair sequences across multiple chromosomal regions. It produces gaps and contradictions. And the compound glyph, translated as those who came before the counting of years, is not imprecise language. In the hieroglyphic system, that grammatical construction labels a category. The Egyptians were not writing poetry. They were filing a designation for something they considered a distinct class of being, distinct enough to require a new compound glyph, distinct enough to carve onto a block they then sealed inside a chamber beneath their oldest monument complex and left there. 3 independent lines of evidence: architectural iconography, geometric, cross-site analysis, and genomic data converge on the same location and the same implication. The beings labeled on JE 89289 predate dynastic Egypt. Their tools appear at the oldest ritual site on Earth, rendered with geometric precision that crosses millennia without explanation. And in the burial layer directly beneath the chamber that held their carved image, 4 individuals carry biological markers that the most comprehensive ancient DNA study of Egyptian remains ever conducted could not place on the human family tree. What the Egyptians called those who came before the counting of years were not gods in the theological sense that dynastic religion would later construct. The evidence points toward a population, biologically distinct, present in the Nile Valley before the First Dynasty, whose existence was recorded with precision by the people who came after them. and then absorbed into a religious framework that reclassified them as divine because no other category existed. The oldest layer of the Saqqara complex was not.
Okay, so what you think?
Shalom. I mean, they on to something. Those beings came down. The angels came down in that area and taught that knowledge. So some of that
Exactly.
knowledge he talking about come from them.
We already know that, right?
Right.
Okay, yeah. So, but I'm saying, yeah, the thing is, they all of a sudden now they bring this information out. And the whole time, Bible, that's the main reason why so many books missing in the Old Testament. I mean, a prime example is Deuteronomy chapter 2. All you have to do is read that. They go about 10 to 15 different types of giants right there in Deuteronomy chapter 2. Okay?
Right.
Is there something?
Sure.
So this big disclosure all of a sudden. Yeah. So, with that being said, okay, let me see where I'm at. Oh, I'm in the wrong place. Okay, yeah, I'll open it up now for some Q&A. Anybody got any questions, comments, any dialogue, anything? Testimony, anything you want to shine a light on?
Shalom, brother Leonard. When in first Maccabees, when you was reading when you were reading that,
Okay.
yeah. Well, let me get it real quick because I know it's verse 35 specifically. That's my question. I think that's just chapter 1. Hold on, I got it. Yes, sir. So where it says, it's right, it's little. It says they stationed there sinful people, men who were renegades. These strengthened their position. They stored up arms and food, collecting the spoils of Jerusalem. They stored them there and became a great menace, for the citadel became an ambush against the sanctuary, an evil adversary of Israel at all times. On every side of the sanctuary, they shed innocent blood. They even defiled the sanctuary. Okay, this is the verse, brother. It's 38. Because of them, the residents of Jerusalem fled. She became a dwelling of strangers, and she became strange to her offspring, and her children forsook her. So but Leonard, and right here in 143 BC, there was still Hebrews there, right up until this verse 38, where it said they fled.
This is 143.
Right. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Right. This is the time when it left. And so, like I was saying before, when you look at the pattern, how many waves happened during the time of Nebuchadnezzar? Didn't Nebuchadnezzar come to Jerusalem 3 times?
3 times, right? 3 seasons. Mm-hmm.
Right. And even right now, we're in the midst of what he said he's going to regather us. Don't we see it happening in waves?
Right. Sure.
Right. So that's what's happening. That's what people are understanding. So in over a process of time, for example, we know that they was in like at least 14 different captivities, right? With the Moabites, with the Philistines, and all that. Every time the Israelites fled from Israel, they went and they had pockets. You know what I'm saying? Where they fled to. A lot of them never even a lot of them came back. Didn't come back. They stayed where they was at. Like for example, when he said when Cyrus made the decree that the Lord of hosts had already prophesied, he made a decree, all y'all can go back. Your God then raised me up, and I didn't. And now he gave me a commandment for all y'all to go back. We're gonna rebuild the temple. You can go back if you want to go back. Now is the time you can go back. And he gave them the money and all of the material they need to, like I said, to redeem them, to put them back in their land, back on their. That's what redeem means. But all of them didn't necessarily go back. We know the 10 tribes said among themselves, a lot of them went to the west coast of Africa. So that was during the time of Nebuchadnezzar. Well, the Antiochus came. What we read now, Antiochus came and ran them out again. Well, they already had pockets over there. They already had a group of people already in the West Coast. So they fled. When they fled this time, they fled to those regions. They already knew where they was at. And that's what these Edomites was dealing with up until this point. A lot of them still in a lot of those places where they fled to. Because the Most High said he's going to scatter them to all different parts of the world, all the earth. But majority of them is in those regions I'm talking about. That's over there in the region where the Tanakh was made at. Where the Hebrews, Abraham's descendants, the people before Abraham, Shem descendants, all that. They was all fled. They all was over in those regions. And so when Daniel's prophesied, let me read it. Daniel prophesied about this. Okay, he said that, let me get Daniel right quick. Daniel said, and like I said, people read over this. So Daniel told them right here in chapter 8, Daniel had a dream of a ram and a he-goat. The first 15 verses is the vision that was brought to Daniel. Then the interpretation came. And it says right here in verse 15, verse 15. And it came to pass when even I, Daniel, had seen the vision and sought for the meaning, then behold, there stood before me the appearance of a man, this Gabriel. And I heard a man's voice between the banks of the Uriah, which called and said to Gabriel, that's how we know it's Gabriel, make this man to understand. It's Michael commanding Gabriel. 17. So he came near where I stood, and when he came, I was afraid. I fell upon my face. But he said unto me, understand, O son of man, for the time of the end shall be the vision. So the end of Israel, like I said, they didn't been stiff-necked over, like I said, 13 or 14 different captivities. He'll deliver them. They go crying and begging for him to come deliver them. He deliver them, bring them back, and they come back with the same shit. So right here, Gabriel, that came from heaven, one of these 7 angels, came down to tell them, verse 18. Now, as he was speaking with me, I was in a deep sleep on my face toward the ground, but he touched me and set me upright. This Gabriel dealing with Daniel. And then 19, and he said, behold, I will make thee know what is in the last end of indignation, for the time appointed, the end shall be. The end, Gabriel coming to tell him what we reading about in First Maccabees. He's finna bring these Greeks and they finna bring the nation of Israel to an end. Not today, what they got over there, the twisted version over in the Revelation. So he says in 19, and he said, behold, I will make thee know what is in the last end of indignation, for the time appointed, the end shall be. The ram, see that? This is the second beast. Ain't no way in hell is Revelations. The ram, which thou sawest having 2 horns, are the kings of the Medes and Persians. That's the second beast, 4 beasts. And the rough goat is the king of Greece, and the great horn between his eyes is the first king. We just read that in First Maccabees. That's Alexandria. Now, 22. Now, that being broken, like we just read, whereas 4 stood up for it, 4 kingdoms shall stand up out of that nation, but not in his own power. So each one of those generals became a nation. They had the third beast got divided up at the end of the third beast after Alexander died. Then here we go. 23. In the latter end, we at the end of the third beast. We ain't got to the 4th beast yet. We ain't got to Rome. In the latter time of their kingdom, third beast, When the transgressors are come to a full, a king. We just reading that. We reading it over here in First Maccabees. A king of fierce countenance and understanding dark sentences. These are the wicked ass people I just told you about. Shall stand up. Then 24. And his power shall be mighty, but not by his own power. He shall destroy wonderfully. He shall prosper. See this? Prosper. Practice. And he shall destroy the mighty and the holy people. So who are the mighty people? We just talked about that on the man telling you on the hieroglyph. These giants, the Canaanites, and all them people that came from the fallen angels. That's the mighty people, mighty men. So he destroyed the mighty people and the holy people. That's the Israelites. This is all in 143 BC. So like I said, not the end of the world, the end of Israel as a nation. That's the reason why today we don't know who the hell we are, because the Most High brought the Greeks and did put our nation and all our history to an end. They was able to discombobulate our history, discombobulate our records. That make any sense?
Right, yes, sir. Right, that makes sense. So yeah, so Brother Leonard, so when you go forward, after 143 BC and they got high priests and all that, those can't be Israelites, right? Because they went to Africa.
Right. They stole it. Remember, they stole at that point. Obadiah tells you, because this is the same time frame. Obadiah tells you Esau came in and stole the land by Lot.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Sure.
So it's 12 tribes, right?
Right.
So the original, we know the story from when Jacob prophesied to all his sons when he brought them all together and told them what was going to happen to them, right?
Mm-hmm. Right, yes, sir.
So if they stole the land by lot, all 12 tribes, so we got a original tribe of Levi, but you also got a fake ass tribe of Levi, right?
Ben Levi.
Right. So then you got a original tribe of Dan, but you got a fake ass tribe of Dan.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's going on today. You got when they stole the land, they from that point on they calling themselves Israelites, but they're not Israelites. So what's been happening to us up until this point is we've been dealing with the fake Israel. That's what happened in America, where you got Negroes waking up now, understand who they are, Israelites, but they go into fake history. When these same people that stole the land of Israel in 143 BC was driven out in 70 AD, they carried and Herod and his king, his lineage was given safe passage to Spain and Portugal. They got prophecies on them. They got curses on them in Ezekiel 35. From there, they trying to find a way to get away from these curses. So they concocted the Nina, the Pinta, the Santa Maria. They're looking for some land. But it's not that they discovered it. They already heard about it from the so-called Moors and all those people that been traveling across the Atlantic. They heard about it, so they concocted 3 ships to go to find out what this land they talking about. And they came here, and that's who the 13 colonies are. So when they got here, they had one time, they occupied the land of Israel, the same way the Samaritans did. When the 10 tribes was taken out, the king of Assyria put 10 more nations there. And they lived there for a while. Then the Israelites came back. And but they still was taught all the laws and the statutes that we have. Same with these people. They lived in the land of Israel from 143 BC to 70 AD. They was kicked out, but they got all our customs. So they looking for a land. They want to rebuild Israel again, the one they had. So when they got over here in America, that's why it's called New Jerusalem. They got over here and started naming places after names when they existed in Israel. And now that we at the end and we waking up, when we understand who we are, now we starting to pick up on false information that these people that concocted, following their track, following the trail they left. That's where all the drama coming in at. That's like now that we waking up Israelites, we looking for our God, but they done gave us another one. In the process of time, between the time that Israel left in 143 BC and the day now that we waking up, we going back to that God they concocted, not back to our God that was over us in 143 BC that ran us out the land. We going back to their God, and like I said, they scrolls that they didn't concoct. That's what the dilemma is. That make any sense?
Yes, sir. Stuff like the Masoretic text and
right. Yeah, all they fake ass history.
right.
They number one MO is they chameleons. They don't have no history. So when you understand who these people are, they come in and absorb everybody else's history. They don't have no history. And that's what has happened to us. That's what I'll be dealing with in a minute about Ethiopia. They give you the name Ethiopia, but it don't mean what they say it means. They got you thinking it's a country, but Ethiopia, at one time created when he made out man and mankind, they was all separated. We know how the Nimrod came and Nimrod broke those barriers. He wanted to bring everybody together. That's how Lucifer works. But at one point, everybody was separated. So when these people started interacting with us, they came to our region where we was at, all black folks, and they saw that we was of a darker hue, so they called us Ethiopians, which are people with burnt faces. So that means that word Ethiopia encompassed all the black folks. But we know that, for example, the Zalavan dictionary tell you Ham is the father of the black races, but not the Negro, which is the Hebrew. Noah's come from Noah lineage, from Adam lineage. They all Ethiopians, but they all burnt face, but they of different nationalities. And they put us all together, and then not only that, made a country out of it. But we'll deal with that in a minute. You got anything else on that?
Shalom, no sir. I'm good on that.
Okay, let me play this right quick. Then we'll go into yeah, let me play this right quick.
Why didn't I find?
This is some my dialogue.
The billionaire class, the tech bros, and this extremely tech-happy
It's those wicked ass people I was telling you about. Just some more information on it.
administration are gradually realizing that they may not be quite as untouchable in the real world as they seemingly are in Congress.
Like living on the edge of Niagara Falls, or you're on a runway next to a jet that's taking off, but this jet doesn't take off.
Morning, noon, night, she even hears it in her bedroom, and it's changed everything about how she lives her life, including her politics.
Red or blue, if you vote against data centers, we vote for you.
A lifelong conservative, she's so angry, she refuses to vote for Trump.
Like I said, a picture worth 1,000 words. So if you want to look at this, Republicans are terrified as BlackRock CEO blows their cover. So this tied to what these people got going on. And I was telling you how David told us that tiring, the Most High gonna break the arm of the wicked. That's what we're looking at.
Back Attorney General Ken Paxton, who clinched the GOP nomination for Senate Tuesday. Instead, she's all in for James Tallarico, a Democrat seeking to flip a seat controlled by Republicans.
This is what I was telling you about in midterm. That's what a lot of this drama is about. They already, people, they've been exposed. They see all this happening with the data centers, all the shit Trump and done, this Project 2025. And so now all these so-called Trump supporters and everybody, they flipping. So you're gonna see some drama going on behind this, but check it out.
Since 1993.
You're willing at this point to forego basically every conservative issue.
Check out what she said.
And let the Senate fall into the hands of Democrats if that's what it takes to kill data centers.
Yep. My entire community is going to break rank.
See?
Everybody. All of us. We've had enough.
President Trump, I'm in charge. He doesn't care about us. Somebody asked him about a week ago, what about the American people? And they're struggling right now.
To what extent are Americans' financial situations motivating you to make a deal?
Not even a little bit.
He did not care. I couldn't even walk.
So I let you know, between now and November, these midterms, they got to do something with these people. You know, in order to keep going forward. Like I said, we already see it. They already mixing Israel and the U.S. military already together. So all this got to take place before the midterm.
Watch that. I was angry after that.
My name is Carrie Betcher. I have brought Fran in today to talk to Wisconsin Rapids.
All the protests, they got to be dealt with before midterm.
About her plan for the moratorium on data centers in Wisconsin. Wisconsin Rapids is currently under attack with a data center coming in. She's giving us all kinds of great pointers on how to deal with it, how to talk to the people and tell them we don't want it here. I've seen a couple of headlines where the answer is, oh yeah, I think we should stop data centers, but there's no plan. Francesca is the only candidate that I have seen that has a comprehensive Control-Alt-Delete to stop the data centers. There hasn't been another one. You will find that this is not a partisan issue. This is not Democrat or Republican. This is your community. They're coming in, they're trying to destroy it, and they don't care about you. This is corporations. This is big money, big tech who don't care about you. They don't care about your neighborhood. They're just coming in to destroy it. So get together with your neighbors, regardless of who they are. We vote Republican. We've always voted Republican. Our families vote Republican because we're hunters and fishers and we want the NRA to be on our side. One of my best friends, her husband he is a Wisconsin Republican. He signed for Francesca this year because she was the only person on any side of this who was anti-data center. That is what this campaign is doing.
This is Larry Fink, the CEO of BlackRock, and as many of you know, BlackRock controls over $10 trillion in assets and pension funds, retirement accounts, savings, those sorts of things. And he literally just said that your pension fund, your investments, your 401ks are going to be used to invest into AI data centers and power grids for the AI data centers. All of that, no worries. I got the video. You can hear it for yourself. Check it out.
I believe much of this money is going to come from average savings accounts and investment accounts.
Maybe you're okay with your savings account.
Like I said, you gotta read the handwriting on the wall. That's got to be before November.
Your pensions, your 401ks, all of that, funding AI data centers and the power grids for AI data centers, that's up for you to decide.
And let me also, though, bring back the whole notion of what's going on in the Middle East, where there's going to be huge opportunities there. But now, because of drone warfare, we have to relook at all forms of security. And the need for rebuilding the GCC region to rebuild it so that it's going to be in a position where it's not going to be obstructed by drone warfare. So many more things are going to have to be underground. But even here in the United States, if we're going to be building, let's say, these 1 gigawatt data centers, how do we make sure we're not protecting those $50 billion, $75 billion investments? we have to re-look at everything because of the role of drone warfare.
That's Judaica.
Right now, we're looking at it internationally, but one of my concerns is, could it be a domestic terrorism using a $3,000 drone? So all of these things are actually opportunities, not problems. It's going to require, as we said, trillions of dollars of capital. Governments cannot build these out alone. They don't have the wherewithal. And two, their deficits are starting mounting. And we spend too little time talking about the U.S. deficits and other countries' deficits. So this is all going to be the role of private sector.
More than 1,000 pages of unpublished reports from the Department of Homeland Security and the FBI that's been obtained by Wire show federal intelligence agencies and domestic law enforcement are circulating reports with a new domestic target in mind: anti-technology extremists. It's horrifying how comfortable this administration is with deeming dissent a threat and labeling basically anyone who doesn't play along as terrorists. And with the term
So I want to shine light on something. So I just read, David told you in Psalms 37, it's the wicked ass people on earth. Don't worry about them. So he's aware of that. Then Gabriel said, Michael done told you, the children of wickedness. You think they got amnesia or they don't know what the hell they talking about? And then we saw that he told them the temple was going to get destroyed in 70 AD. I mean, in 143 BC, and then these people took over. So these are the people they talking about. They're not just, they ain't just talking and all this stuff being written down just for the hell of it. These warnings. There's some people that's on this planet, on this in the Most High's creation that don't belong here. Basic species. And so once that register you in your head, it'll relieve you a lot of unnecessary stress. Because they didn't told you. Like I said, if you understand who it is that's in charge and what they're saying, then it'll relieve you a lot of, like I said, it'll relieve you a lot of unnecessary bullshit because of, and told you, I showed you, I done read it. He's telling you, it's some wicked people on earth. The Lord of hosts got a problem with you. He keep telling us he against them. I'm not dealing with them. David telling you that. Okay. Any comments, questions?
Shalom, Brother Leonard. In another class, you was talking about too how after every captivity, he always judged them,
Right.
like he did in Egypt and Babylon. So it's kind of what we're looking at too. He uses that greed against them.
Yeah, it's a prime example is the flood. That was the purpose of the flood. It was you know what I mean? It was this wickedness, a source of wickedness that had a basic species that came on earth. And he had to get rid of it. And we, like I say, we look at it every day with hell, it's your house. If you live out in the woods somewhere and you having a problem with coons, then you got to call the wildlife. Come in and deal with them. You have a mosquito problem. You got to call the pest control. It's the same thing. That's what the flood was. You had invasive species that didn't belong here. That was adverse to the Most High creation. Didn't give a damn about it. Tearing it up. We just read that in First Maccabees. So that's the problem. Okay. So let me go ahead and do this. This is my little topic for discussion. These same people. We still dealing with these same people. Okay. They already done built one God when they concocted JC. So here we go now in these last days with AI. They superimposing it. They super enhancing it. Check it out.
Try our team for 7 days.
Okay. Here we go.
Animals.
Yes.
The whole idea that humans have this soul or spirit and they have free will and nobody knows what's happening inside them, that is over.
You are bowing down to something that in the end is idolatrous because it is less than God.
The word AI is on it. It says God, AI, and the end of history. Why are you so concerned, dare I say, about artificial intelligence as a leading pioneer in maths and sort of philosophical thinking?
Well, because I'm interested in the bigger picture. Anything that raises questions about the nature of human identity. And I was first struck by the drive for artificial general intelligence that's really become one of the, it looks as if it's the prime motivation of people like Sam Altman and so on. It's really hitting the headlines. But within that, there's the notion of transhumanism.
What does that mean?
The idea is that we go beyond the human. One of our most famous astronomers, Royal, he put it this way. He says in the distant future, it won't be organic brains, it'll be machine brains. And he seriously believes, as do a number of scientists who are not science fiction authors, that there will be some kind of merger between humanity and machines to have a transhuman, something that's beyond the human, and something.
Is that not in colony?
Right.
Same thing. We see it like we was talking about last night. This is what we headed. We got away from, like I was saying before, I was talking about it a couple of days or so ago. Actually, the human body, the whole construct of the human body, it wasn't supposed to die. When you look at it, it wasn't supposed to die. Okay, but it's cause of what we done is dying. But these people trying to make an alternative to it. It's who they are. So they gonna make an alternative to it with AI.
That is, they hope super intelligent, got all the human properties and much more.
Children of wickedness. They have no connection with the Creator. When you say children of wickedness, they have no connection with the Creator. And so now we in these last days, and Negroes supposed to be waking up. They trying to connect themselves with somebody that has with ideologies has nothing to do with the Creator. When you attach yourself to that whole understanding of trying to attach yourself to JC, it's not having nothing to do with the Creator.
Or now, one of the people who's spreading that kind of transhumanist vision is the Israeli historian Yuval Noah Harari. And he's written a book called Homo Deus, the man God. And that really made me prick up my ears because I know enough about this book here, the Bible, to realize that the drive for humans towards self-deification is, yes, making themselves gods. And you see it all through history. The ancient Babylonian emperors were regarded as gods. The Roman emperor.
Children of wickedness. We've just been talking about that.
Started calling themselves gods and all the rest of it. And what Harari says is the 21st century has two big purposes. Number one, to solve the problem of physical death as a technical problem.
To solve death.
Yes, solve death. Physical death is, in his view, a technical problem, and we'll solve it. The second agenda item, and he calls them agenda items for the 21st century, is to increase human happiness by bioengineering, cyborg engineering, mechanical implants, all this kind of thing, and turning humans, quote, into gods with a small g. In other words, this is the drive for a super intelligent human. We've only got started. And his point is, and from his atheist perspective, one can understand it immediately, evolution
unguided natural processes have brought us to this point. Now we're going to take it into our hands, and we're going to engineer humanity into the future very rapidly to approach this superhuman thing. Now, I hear that and I see that, but I see that as huge implications for one of the fundamental teachings that's behind, I would argue, Western civilization. And that is the notion that humans, like us, are made in the image of God as rational, moral beings. Now, I got into this because some Christian leaders wanted to have a conference on AI, and they wanted it introduced from someone who knew something about the teaching of the image of God in Genesis, and who had a scientific background and who could perhaps begin to lead them into what was going on in the AI field around. And once I got into it, I realized this is a seriously important thing, because we haven't got to artificial general intelligence yet. That's still a pipe dream, but it's improving all the time. But we've got far enough, that is, to what's called narrow AGI, which most of the stuff that works is. And that is posing a threat to human beings at all kinds of levels. And I began to see that that was seriously important for everybody to take on board. So I wrote 2 books, one 2020 called 2084 is the title of my book, Artificial Intelligence and the Future of Humanity. And then the publishers asked me to update it in 2024. So there's a second edition, twice as big. And it is my main work on AI. That is not. That is work on the Book of Revelation with reference to AI. The other is directly going into AI, pointing out its values, which I think are immense, particularly in medicine, but pointing out its dangers, which I think are immense, for bringing about a state in the world that none of us, I think, want. I put him on trial and conducted the trial himself, which was most unusual, and said, "Are you a king?"
Harari, he mentioned, he says, humans are now hackable animals.
Yes.
The whole idea that humans have this soul or spirit and they have free will and nobody knows what's happening inside them, that is over. And Sam Altman said the most successful founders do not set out to create companies. They are on a mission to create something closer to a religion. And at some point, it turns out that forming a company is the easiest way to do so. And lastly, a former Google engineer said, what is going to be created will effectively be a god. It's not a god in the sense that it will make lightning or cause hurricanes. But if there is something 1 billion times smarter than the smartest human, what else can you call it?
It's odd. Thank you for quoting that, because I was going to quote it to you, the Sam Altman's point about making a religion. And that is what is happening. And people have pointed out the obvious. Here you have a system, even now, that has got some of the qualities we normally associate with God. It appears to be omniscient. You can ask it any question. It is omnipresent through the internet, etc., etc. And therefore, already there are worship groups to worship AI. And some people welcome this and say, well, this is the way we should go. And other people say, just wait a moment. There's something very strange going on here. And in the end, you are bowing down to something that in the end is idolatrous, because it is less than God. But it's very tempting to do that.
I mean, people are basically praying to it now. They're confiding in a way that they might have.
Absolutely doing it.
Okay. Got anything on that? What do you think?
Shalom, Brother Leonard. I think he's right about that. Because when it might have been this interview or another one where they were talking about that's what makes the AI powerful, not the like the technology itself, but the fact that everybody thinks it's so powerful, and and is worshiping it, like you saying, like you're saying on the clip.
Exactly, and that's what all it's about. Like I said, Steven Spielberg right now as we speak. I don't know if it came out yet or not, but they got a movie and from the trailer. It's gonna impact a lot of people, but it's supposed to be disclosure, bringing about the UFO phenomenon and that these extraterrestrial beings been here all the time. And if you have any familiar with any of it, or if you've been listening to the channel, they want you to think that it's a class of people, race of people that from in outer space, the ones that created us, not Yahweh. And so that's what all that's about. They come into a crescendo with all that, trying to bring all that into play. Okay. So good.
Right. So
I'm gonna play this right here. This is my scripture reading, but it's I'm dealing with Ethiopia. It says Ethiopia was never a country only, right? It said it was lied to on the understanding of where Ethiopia came from. I talked about it before. It's a Greek word, which is Greek is unnatural to Hebrew. He speak Hebrew. Greek is for European. So that word Ethiopia is a Greek word. Okay, so let's check it out.
Ethiopia was never a country. It was the name for all of Black Africa.
Okay, it just said that.
2,000 years ago, a Greek scholar sat in Alexandria and wrote the word that named your entire people.
Exactly.
He wrote Ethiopia, and he did not mean one country on the Horn of Africa.
JC, a Greek word, just for GP.
He meant every dark-skinned people from the Nile to the setting sun. That word covered your ancestors, all of them. What happened to it? How it was shrunken, renamed, and locked inside a single modern border is the theft you were never told about. Today you are going to get it back. I want to be clear about something before we go any further. This is not a video about the modern nation of Ethiopia. I have deep respect for that country, its people, and its extraordinary history. I believe the modern Ethiopian people carry a piece of something ancient that the whole world should honor. But what I've been sitting with for years, going back to when I first opened Herodotus in a library and felt the floor shift under me, is that the word itself, the word Ethiopia, once carried something so much larger. I'm still working through the edges of this, but the center holds, and the center is this. The ancient world used that name for all of us. Here is where most people start. They hear the word Ethiopia, and they picture one nation in the northeastern corner of Africa. They picture Addis Ababa. They picture the ancient Aksumite kingdom, the Blue Nile, the Orthodox Church with its ancient liturgy, and all of that is real. All of that is worth your time. But I've come to believe that what we were given, what centuries of translation and cartography handed down to us, is a map that was redrawn long after the original. The ancient Greeks called the dark-skinned people of the world Aethiops. The word means, in its root, burnt-faced.
Come on.
And that phrase was not a narrow label. Homer used it in the Odyssey to describe a people so beloved that the gods themselves went to feast with them. Herodotus, writing in the 5th century before Christ, placed Ethiopia at the farthest edges of the known world. He meant west of Egypt and south through the continent, not a single political territory. To the ancient Greek mind, Ethiopia was the land where the sun was closest, where dark-skinned people lived in their greatness, and that land ran enormous. This passage rarely makes it into Western Bible education. The Septuagint, written by Jewish scholars in Alexandria around 250 years before the birth of Christ, translated the Hebrew word Cush, the black African descendant of Ham, the son who peopled an entire continent, as Ethiopia, not Abyssinia, not a small Horn of Africa nation. They reached for the biggest word they had for black Africa, and they used it 56 times in the Old Testament. 56 times. What does that tell you? That's not a footnote. That is a recurring subject. That is God naming a people by the largest name the ancient world had for them. You were named, you were seen, and somewhere between 250 BC and the cartographers of the European colonial age, the name was shrunken until it fit inside borders that did not exist when God first spoke it. Before there were countries, before there were borders, before any European hand had drawn a line across the face of Africa, there was the land itself, stretching, enormous, from the Mediterranean coast down through the Sahara, from the highlands where the Nile began to the rainforests that had no name yet in any European tongue.
I remember looking at a modern map after realizing this, and suddenly the border looked fragile, like cages we were taught to accept. Imagining a borderless Africa felt like breathing fresh air for the very first time.
I've been sitting with the question of what that world looked like before it was parceled, and what it meant to call someone from that world by a single name. The ancient map of Africa that survives in the writings of Herodotus, Strabo, and Diodorus Siculus does not divide a continent into 54 nations. It describes a vast inhabited world sorted by the Nile corridor, by the great desert to the north, and by the darkness of the interior that the Greek world had not yet reached. And in all of that world, the people who lived south of Egypt, the dark-skinned, curly-haired people who the Greeks saw trading along the Nile, who sent gold and ivory and incense north toward Alexandria. Those people were called Aethiops, all of them. From the nomadic cattle herders of what is now Sudan to the settled kingdoms of what is now the Congo Basin, the label was continental, not municipal. Many of us were taught that ancient Africa was a mystery to the Greco-Roman world, that they knew only the North African coast. I used to believe that myself. Then I read Herodotus Book 2, where he travels as far south as Elephantine, the modern city of Aswan, and interviews Egyptians about what lies beyond. And the Egyptians told him, beyond us is Ethiopia, and it stretches as far as the land goes. Herodotus accepted that. He didn't try to shrink it. He wrote it the way they told it to him. Now take the word Aethiops, Aethio meaning to burn, and ops meaning face, the people with the sun-touched face. It is not a slur in its ancient usage. In Homer's Odyssey, written perhaps 3 centuries before Herodotus, Zeus himself goes to feast with the Ethiopians. The gods feasted with the dark-skinned people of the African South. Homer presented this as a mark of distinction, not disgrace. The Ethiopians in Homer are the pious, the beloved, the people who still lived close to the divine. Something in that reading has stayed with me. The Greek word Aethiops covered any dark-skinned African population. When Herodotus describes Ethiopians with straight hair and Ethiopians with curly hair, he is describing distinct peoples within a large category, not a single ethnic group. The word was descriptive of color and origin, not of a single kingdom or city-state. And even the rivers of Kush, a territory the ancient world associated with the deep interior of Africa. This is not metaphor. This is geography. Now go to Zephaniah chapter 3, verse 10. From beyond the rivers of Kush, from beyond the rivers of Ethiopia in the Septuagint, my worshippers will bring me offerings. Zephaniah is speaking of a diaspora, people scattered beyond the rivers of Black Africa, who will one day bring offerings to God.
In my community, many of us read this verse and feel
his tradition taught, and his tradition taught that the land of Kush, renamed in the Septuagint as Ethiopia, was the Black African world south of Egypt. If this truth is landing with you right now, if you feel that shift in your chest when the ancient evidence lines up, then I want you to do something for me. Type the word Ethiopia in the comments below. One word, Ethiopia, because what I want you to feel, just for this moment, is that the word was always bigger than what they gave you. It was tradition holds, it remains to this day. What is striking, from the perspective of this conversation, is how the Kibra Nagast handles the name Ethiopia. In its telling, The Queen of Sheba's kingdom is not just the Abyssinian highland country. She rules a domain that extends across a vast territory. Her name, her reach, and her lineage are presented as representing a larger Black African world, connected by covenant and by blood to the people of Scripture. The Kibra Nagast is not claiming a small identity. It is claiming the full ancient identity, the continental scope, that the name Ethiopia once carried. I believe the Ethiopian Orthodox tradition preserved something that the Western Church lost, or perhaps chose not to emphasize. The memory that Ethiopia in Scripture means something larger than any one modern country. The memory that the Black African world has a named, honored, covenant-connected identity in the oldest sacred texts of human civilization. And now I want to show you the most specific, the most undeniable piece of the archaeological and biblical record, because everything we've built in this video converges here. Open your Bible to 2 Kings chapter 19, verse 9. The Assyrian king Sennacherib is threatening Jerusalem. Hezekiah, king of Judah, is under siege. Sennacherib sends messengers to Hezekiah with this warning. I have heard that Tirhakah, king of Ethiopia, has set out to fight against you. The verse is citing a specific person, a specific title, and a specific historical moment. Tirhakah, king of Ethiopia. The Bible gives you a name and a title, and that name appears in stone. Go to the archaeological record. Taharka, which the Bible renders as Tirhakah, was the fourth king of the 25th dynasty of Egypt. He ruled from approximately 690 BC to 664 BC. He was born in Nubia, in modern Sudan, and rose to rule the combined kingdoms of Kush and Egypt, making him one of the most powerful men in the ancient world at the height of his reign. His face appears on statues recovered from multiple sites across Egypt and Sudan. His name appears in his own royal inscriptions. His military campaigns against Assyria are documented not only in the Bible, but in Assyrian royal records. The Taylor Prism, an Assyrian clay prism now in the British Museum, records Sennacherib's campaign against Jerusalem in the reign of Hezekiah from the Assyrian perspective. It does not mention Taharka by name in every version, but the campaign itself is confirmed on multiple sides of the archaeological record. Taharka was Black. He was Nubian. He was from the kingdom of Kush, the kingdom that the Septuagint called Ethiopia, the kingdom whose pyramids still stand in Sudan today. Scholars disagree on that. The question of how broadly the ancient Greeks applied the word Ethiopia at different periods. There is debate on that too. What I've offered is one careful reading. It is verifiable in the citations I've given you tonight. Check Herodotus Book 1. Check Herodotus Book 2. Check the Septuagint online. It's freely available. And search for the word Ethiopia. Do your own study with your own pastor, your own community, your own heart. I'm not asking you to take my word for any of this. I'm asking you to look at the primary sources and come to your own conclusion.
Okay. Got anything on that?
Shalom, Brother Leonard. One distinction that was made in there that he mentioned was just that one of the groups of Ethiopians had straight hair, and then one of the groups had curly hair. So letting you know that that term is, why used.
Right, exactly. Is there something?
Right.
So yeah, so it's saying burnt face. So facial features. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And we see that today now. We see a bunch of Indians, they got burnt face over there in India. Yeah, so yeah. So
but with the straight hair.
Yeah, with the straight hair, right. So it's distinguished. Like I said, even we see on the walls in Egypt, they when they depict the Israelite, they show him with the woolly hair. He's not like the people that in India and all these other different places. He got a distinct look about themselves. They got the thick woolly hair. Okay, that was like that was the sign. It's like a rooster. You know, when you see the rooster, he got the crown on his head, right?
Right.
So that's the Egyptian. I mean, the Israelite, he had the thick, woolly hair on his head. No receding hairline. Okay, great. Let that firm age. But anyway, so that's how they distinguish the Israelite. That's how you knew, back then they knew Israelite. When they say that Joseph was they brought Joseph into Egypt, pulled him out of the pit. He was distinguished because of his DNA and his features. Okay, so you got a scripture you want to read? You want read it, then we'll break it down, close out.
Shalom, yes, sir. Brother Leonard cannot. This is the Wisdom of Solomon.
Okay.
Chapter 14. And it says, we're just talking about the idols and them making gods. And it says,
Okay.
yes, sir, for the idea of making idols was the beginning of fornication, and the invention of them was the corruption of life. For they did not exist from the beginning, nor would they last forever. For through human vanity they entered the world, and therefore their speedy end has been planned. For a father, consumed with grief at an untimely bereavement, made an image of his child, who had been suddenly taken from him. He now honored as a god what was once a dead human being, and handed on to his dependents secret rites and initiations. Then the ungodly custom, grown strong with time, and was kept as a law, and at the command of monarchs, carved images were worshipped. When the people could not honor monarchs in their presence, since they lived at a distance, they imagined their appearance far away and made a visible image of the king whom they honored. So by their zeal, they might flatter the absent one as though present. And Shalom, that was the Wisdom of Solomon on chapter 14, verses 15 through 17.
Okay. You got any feedback on that?
Shalom, Brother Leonard. Just in here, just the fact that it's a wicked custom. You making something, with your hands, then worshiping it. That's specifically what the Lord of Hosts told Moses to tell our forefathers not to do. And especially then right here, but a question, this kind of remind me of JC a little bit, although it's a little different. But when it
Right.
says his yes sir, that the child died, and then out of grief somebody made an image, and then they start worshiping it.
Right.
So
Okay.
sir.
So you good?
Sure. Shalom.
Okay, so with that being said, I'm gonna say shalom everybody. We got our evening Shabbat class this evening at 6 p.m. Central Time. And then we have our Sunday Advanced Bible Study tomorrow. It's at 5 p.m. Central Time for those that want to check it out. So with that being said, say shalom, shalom, and another shalom. I'll see everybody this evening.
Shalom.
I highly recommend that you get this book and you read it because it's a must that you understand who God head is in the order that's in the Old Testament and Tanakh, because it's not the same as in the New Testament. And when you read this and you get an understanding, then the scriptures open up and then you begin to understand. So I highly recommend that you get this book. It's the Elohim of Israel. And it's a breakdown on the word Elohim and who the God of Israel is and the Godhead.